I researched over a dozen different scientific studies to figure out the biologically optimal way to turn a Rubik's Cube. If you're new here, my name's Brandon. Every single week, I make a training plan for how I'm going to work on Rubik's Cubes, log all of it in a bunch of spreadsheets. Then I make a video like this where I review my training plan and how I'm going to get better at training. My long-term goal is to be a finalist at a major championship for everything from 3x3 up to 7x7 by the end of 2031. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about all this research I've done about what makes a biologically optimal turning style. How do the muscles, joints, and ligaments in your fingers and wrists work in relation to how you turn a Rubik's Cube? What is good and bad biologically and relating to how your muscles and joints work? Then I'm going to go over what I did last week and how I'm going to train over the course of next week. My next competition is See Me Mini. It's on Saturday in 5 or 6 days now. I'm doing 3x3, one-handed, and 2x2, but the only one I care about is 3x3. I'm sponsored by thecubicle.com. If you want to support me on my journey to becoming a world-class cuber, use code TRUE at thecubicle for 5% off. Also, quick announcement, I'm going to be at Tingman Live. I am so stoked about this. Tingman reached out to me a few weeks ago and said, hey, I would love it if you could travel with me to all the shows and just kind of help out, film some vlogs, that sort of thing. So I'm going to go visit the Cubicle in early March, so you can expect some content from me at the Cubicle's office. I'm going to be traveling with Tingman to all the shows in New York, in Houston, and in Orlando, so you can look forward to that. And Tingman and I might be doing a little bit of a vlog at Disney World and Universal Studios in Orlando. So yeah, very exciting stuff coming up soon. A very interesting crossover. So thanks to Tingman for inviting me. If any of you guys pull up to Tingman Live, I will be there at any of the locations. Okay, enough yapping and announcements, my word. So, some stuff I did this week. I started to experiment with a whole bunch of different algorithms. I went through all my OLLs and all my PLLs. I watched slow motion videos of how Yiheng Wang does all his PLLs, and slow motion videos of how Tingman does all his OLLs and PLLs. And I found a whole bunch of things that I changed, which I will show you the details on the new algorithms I picked in a second. But the thing is, as I was doing this, I had this question. If I'm going to be changing all this stuff about the algorithms I do and how I turn and all this, is there a specific way to turn that is biologically optimal? Do certain fingers move faster than others? Are certain finger motions faster or slower than others? Is there a way to turn that is biologically less or more fatiguing? Is there some way I can train my fingers to move faster? So the short answer to all those questions is there is no clear, objectively faster way to turn. There are logically good ways to turn, and there's a lot of interesting tidbits from my research that I'm about to share with you that I think are kind of cool. All the sources are going to be linked below. So some of the studies that I looked at like 12 or 13 of them. Some of them were about rock climbers, because rock climbers do lots of training of their fingers in different positions because they have to hang from little fingertips. A lot of studies about how pianist fingers work, in relation to how they do in performance versus in practice. Typists, how do kids who are first learning to type activate their muscles versus advanced typists versus professional stenographers? And then there's a whole bunch of studies from people who are developing either humanoid robots or prosthetic hands, because what they want to understand is, how does a human hand work? How can the fingers and ligaments move? How fast can they move? What is their range of motion? Which joints are responsible for what? So lots of interesting research has actually been done on this topic, even though none of it's directly related to cubing. So first overview point, this is from the American Society for the Surgery of the Hand. Lots of interesting stuff on there about hand anatomy. The short version of what I found is each of your fingers has 3 main joints that we care about. There's this top joint up here at the top, between the highest part of your finger and the middle bone of your finger, the distal joint. Then there's the proximal joint, which is the second one down. And then this joint here, which is your knuckle. It's this long metacarpophalangeal, whatever, that one. So, hand cam, not that, this. So there's this top joint right here. There's this middle joint, and then there's your knuckle. Each of your fingers has 3 different ways that it can articulate. Each of those joints independently has a range of motion and speed that it can travel. Your thumb obviously has 2, one here, one here. All those muscles run up your arm, so when you move your finger, you can see the muscle in my forearm moving as my pointer finger wiggles. So I'm moving my pointer finger back and forth. You can see the muscle in my forearm moving. So all the muscles for your fingers run across your wrist. So the joints in your wrist also matter. The angle of your wrist affects the leverage and speed of the nerves that are going to travel to your fingers. So anyway, that's the basics of the anatomy here. Is you've got 3 joints in each finger. Wrist joint also matters. And the questions that I had as I was researching this was, how fast can each finger move? Does it change whether you're going out or in? How strong is each finger? Because that can change what moves you can do on a big cube versus a small cube. How much endurance do your fingers have for long sessions versus short sessions? And then range of motion is also interesting. Like how complex of a finger trick can you do? Some people can do like pull the U layer around with their index finger. Like Tingman Choi showed me some of his AUFs. He does this, which is a very Megaminx looking finger trick. Kyle Santucci sometimes will do a B move where he literally pulls with his index finger, which is totally nuts to me. That's range of motion. So lots of different questions here about how this stuff works. A couple of terms. Flexion is when you curl a finger closer to you, and extension is when you push it out. So this is flexion. That's what you would do for this kind of move, flexion. Same thing for a pinch R move, that's flexion right there. And then extension is where you push a finger out. So this is extension, this is extension. Both of those are very frequently utilized in solves. A movement like this isn't really flexion or extension because you're just kind of articulating around a joint. So in your arm, this is going to be the difference between your bicep, which controls flexion, and your tricep, which controls extension. Fingers have the same thing. There are different sets of muscles and ligaments that train both. So across all the research that I studied, there is no measurable speed difference between your fingers flexing and your fingers extending. So practically what that means is your fingers can move equally as fast this way versus this way. Pinch moves or flicks are not inherently better or worse than push moves from the pure perspective of how fast can your fingers and joints move. However, flexion, which is curling your finger, is much stronger than extension is. So one of the studies that I looked at studied a whole bunch of experienced rock climbers. And what they noticed is that when rock climbers train their fingers, they mostly train with their fingers in a curled position. They'll curl their fingers and hang off of some sort of hangboard or grip. And that makes their flexion a whole lot stronger than their ability to extend. But on top of that, when people would exclusively train their extension, the flexion side of their fingers still got stronger than extension. So whether you were training the outward or inward motion of your fingers, the curl inward motion biomechanically is stronger than the extension motion. So I thought that was interesting because with cubing, that speaks to which finger tricks you should prioritize if you're using slow cubes, if you're on big cubes, if you want precision. Strength matters more than speed. Another interesting thing that I found is that your fingers move at half speed independently versus connected as part of your whole hand. So this was in one of the studies where robotic hand designers put these sensory gloves over healthy people's hands, and they just tracked how each of the fingers moved on their own. And something they noticed was that if you make a fist and then reopen your fist, the peak speed of each finger is almost twice as fast as if you're independently opening or closing one finger at a time. And that's because the musculature in all your fingers is connected. If you move one of your fingers, you can see the other ones kind of come with it no matter what you do. So if your whole hand is working together, you can travel much faster, twice as fast biologically across the sample that they had, versus your entire hand moving at once, which isn't super applicable in cubing, but I thought it was interesting and worth sharing. Another thing, wait, I already did that one. Yeah, skilled typists. Okay, so this study got a whole bunch of like elementary schoolers who were learning how to type, and they studied the muscle activation in their forearm. Which musculature in their fingers and wrists were they using when they were first learning how to type versus older kids who were better at typing. And it was not that good typists, faster typists, activated different muscles. It's just that they activated certain things less often. So let me try and explain this. When you're typing, there's two motions. There's the down motion and there's the up motion. If you're typing on a keyboard, when you press into the key, you're fighting against the key because it's pushing back up against you. But when you let go, you can kind of let the spring guide your finger back up. The new typists had their muscles activated for the whole way down and the whole way up, which meant that they were stiff at multiple points and trying to control both their finger going down and up. But the experienced typists kind of let their fingers ride the keys back up as they typed. They used the springiness of the key to their advantage. So they were only actually using the extension portion of their muscles and not the flexion part. They were letting the keys turn themselves, bounce themselves up. And as I thought about this, I thought this is super interesting, because what do almost all of the super fast kids in China do with their cubes? Well, they almost all use extremely light, fast GAN cubes. Some use MoU cubes. They put them on the loosest settings possible, and with really strong magnets, normally with the whole core magnet setup. And they train themselves on these extremely light, fast cubes so that they don't have to push each turn as far before it auto-completes the turn for them. And that's what they train their muscles to. A lot of NA cubers are from an older generation of cubing where their puzzles were slower or thicker, and so they have literally trained their muscles to activate more often or differently from some of these young kids in China. And this parallels a lot of the stuff that this typing study was talking about. So there is like an objective argument for fast, loose cubes. Tingman calls them exploding cubes. There's an objective argument for that being better if you have trained yourself to be used to it. So as I was reading all this stuff, I had a few specific questions. Are flicks better than extensions is the one that prompted me to do all this, but there were more. Are pinch F turns better than thumb F turns? Are there any motions biologically that are inherently bad or slow? Are there any really good and overpowered ones that we should always be doing? So I gave you some general thoughts. Now I want to answer these particular questions. Fundamental principles for how to turn well. These are not like biologically, this is how your muscles work. For the most part, 3 is. But these are the principles that I would have for choosing good finger tricks. The first one is to have a stabilizing grip that's consistent. So if you're holding the cube, you should not be re-gripping your hands all the time to make new turns. So if you have to do this every time you turn the front, you're changing your stabilizing grip every time you want to do an F turn. If you're doing this every time you want to turn the front, that's okay. But your thumb has to move, and your thumb is stabilizing the cube. It is what is holding the puzzle. It ends up being like 2 fingers, and your thumb is always one of them, right? If you move your thumb, you're changing your stabilizing grip. That's why F moves like this are so much better, because this finger has nothing to do with the stability of the cube. You can pull this off with no changing of your stabilizing grip, which is why pinch F is inherently better than thumb F. The second principle is to minimize the distance traveled. So this sounds obvious. You want your fingers to move as little as possible. But there are some turns where, for example, moving your finger from this position to here results in a much larger range of motion across all 3 joints than moving your finger from here to here. This motion really only requires 2 of your 3 joints to move, and they have to move less than moving your finger from here to here. So that principle makes me think that pinch U is inherently better a lot of the time than a push U, because you have lower distance traveled and you're using the stronger side of your finger motion. It's not necessarily faster, but it enables you to use the stronger part of your muscles and different distance traveled because of the angle that your finger is at when you're starting the turn. Third principle is to reduce co-contraction. So this is something that the climbing study and the piano study talked about, I believe. This is the idea of actively contracting opposing muscles in your hand and wrist. So in a couple of the studies, they talked about how when you activate muscles on one side of your hand, the muscles on the other side slow down. So if you're working really hard to stabilize your wrist, your finger muscles are going to slow down. In playing piano or maybe other instruments like violin, if you put too much tension in one muscle, all the other ones start to seize up. So for cubing, a couple of relevant examples for this would be if you are trying to learn how to do pinch F turns, which this happened to me, you end up putting a bunch of tension down your wrist and pinky because you're thinking so hard about stabilize the cube, get my finger into position. But then in doing that, you're shooting yourself in the foot because you're losing the speed and strength in this finger because you're co-contracting. You're doing two muscles contracting at the same time. So with cubing, it's good to be loose, have a light grip on the cube, and only be actively contracting or using one muscle at a time. And then the fourth, just logical principle, is that the bottleneck should always be you turning, not you reloading. So by bottleneck, I mean, what is preventing me from doing my next move? If you're doing an algorithm, there are two potential reasons that you are unable to do, well, three potential reasons you're unable to do the next move. The first one is that I'm literally doing a move right now. So if I'm gonna do RU, I literally cannot do the U move until my R turn is complete enough to do this. For the whole portion from here to here, the bottleneck is just moving this layer. That's turning being the bottleneck. That's very good. Let's say I'm doing something where I want to do this. It is possible for me to get to this point and this finger isn't all the way back here yet. The time it takes me to reload my finger into the next position is the bottleneck instead of me actually completing each move. That's really bad. That means that I've chosen suboptimal finger tricks because I'm just waiting on my fingers to reload to get to do my next turn, as opposed to waiting for me to literally complete one turn. One of those is just the laws of physics holding me back. The other one is me inefficiently allocating my resources. The last way that you can end up waiting to turn is a regrip, but that's the same thing as a reload. It's just repositioning your whole hand. So that's pretty obvious. So those are the principles. Consistent stabilizing grip, minimize the distance your fingers have to travel, don't co-contract, loose grip as much as possible, and make your bottleneck turning, not reloading. So takeaways from that. Almost always, there is a marginal benefit to doing pinch U versus extension moves because flexion tends to be stronger than extension. And on top of that, flexion tends to have a smaller range of motion. So that would be my argument for if an equal scenario between extension and pinch, prioritize pinch over extension. Thumb F moves only make sense when your stabilization does not matter. So an example of this being okay would be if you're finishing a T-perm, the last move of your solve is this thumb move. It is okay for this hand to completely leave the cube after that, and then just finish your last AUF with your left hand. That's somewhere where I'm completely fine with this being my ending F move. But for something like a J-perm, I have to completely reposition where my thumb is. So the only times, in theory, that you should allow yourself to do thumb F moves are when stabilization completely stops mattering. There are a few cases where reverse F makes a lot of sense in the context of the algorithm, but generally thumb F only makes sense when your stabilization doesn't matter anymore. The third takeaway that I had from this stuff is that any sort of finger trick that requires a subtle shift in your stabilizing fingers for just a marginal time increase probably isn't worthwhile. So the example for this is the way Tingman does his Y-perm. Tingman's Y-perm execution is really wild to me. He positions his left hand a little bit high up on the cube so that both of these two fingers are free. He does pinch F, flicks like this, and then also gets his middle finger involved right here. Then another pinch F prime, like that. These two fingers are doing a ton of heavy lifting for him. But most of the solve for me, my left hand looks like this. It's covering almost 2/3 of the cube. The middle finger is playing an extremely important role in stabilizing my grip. So being able to kind of switch into this grip where both of these fingers are available to do U moves requires a stabilizing regrip. And the time save on this versus my current Y-perm execution is so marginal that I don't think that would be worth it for me personally. Tingman seems to be making it work just fine. And then one last thing is Ado U moves are only bad if it reload bottlenecks you. Otherwise, it's actually pretty good. So something a couple people have told me is I do this a lot in my solves. Reach around U move, which this is from OH solving, right? You can do push and U moves, but you can also do this in OH solving. And some people have told me, oh, this is something that top level solvers don't do, so you shouldn't do it. The thing is, I see no first principles reason that this is a bad finger trick unless me traveling this distance between my finger living here and getting into this position is the thing that's bottlenecking me. As long as I'm not getting reload bottlenecked, but instead I'm getting turn speed bottlenecked, I think this is an objectively fine finger trick to be doing. And there are several of my executions where I like being able to use this. Okay. So those are some of my takeaways here. Quick reminder, double check if you're subscribed to the channel. A lot of people like my videos and then they're like, oh shoot, I'm not subscribed to you. So just double check, please, helps out the channel. Anywho. Okay, so what did I actually train last week? That's enough of me talking about objectively optimal finger tricks, whatever that means. So I didn't do a ton of solves. I did under 500 for 3x3 and about 80 solves on 7x7. Total plateau in 7x7, and with all of these new algorithms and finger tricks I'm putting into 3x3, my times kind of went up this week. But I did like another 8-ish, maybe 10 hours of algorithm training. I didn't time it exactly. So not as much volume as I've done other weeks in terms of solves, but quite a bit of algorithms. Here are the PLLs that I switched. So I already said I don't think switching my Y perm and T perm is worth it. I considered switching my R perm to a different algorithm. I'll show you that in a second. And my J perm, I'm kind of on the fence about it. I talked to Patrick Ponce a few minutes ago, or like an hour and a half ago, and he was saying that I should get out of the habit of doing thumb F on my J perm, which I agree. I just don't feel like my normal J perm execution where I do this is all that bad, but it is marginally more optimal to pinch F here and then to do a pinch U here and then pinch F here. So this is probably what I'm going to switch to. I haven't fully committed yet. Two other algs that I got new finger tricks for with PLL is my F perm. So the way Yiheng does it is he regrips his thumb to the top right here and then does U by pushing, and then pinches for this F move. And then the rest of it's pretty standard. What I was doing is R, U, F, or sometimes like this. But this it's such a minor regrip. You can basically roll the R move, and then as long as you can do that pinch F prime, you're golden into the rest of the algorithm. So that's my F perm switch. And then for my N perm, what I've been doing is using my finger over here to do a lot of U moves. So this is what I used to do. Boom, boom, and then thumb F move here, which is okay, but you kind of overwork this. You tend to get bottlenecked by the reload here. So what I'm doing instead, Yiheng and Tingman both do this, I'm pretty sure, is I'm going to use my middle finger and index finger on my left hand, which is okay with me because my left hand is doing the stabilizing. My right hand has a lot of freedom. So my right middle index finger, I'm okay kind of regripping those up. Whereas my left hand is so stabilizing that I won't do that for the Y perm. But with N perm, I'll do it. I'm going to do it like this. So you get this nice little rolling double flick, pinch here, pinch F for this move. It flows really, really well. Still learning it at full speed, but it feels super, super solid. And then I'm switching my E-perm to the one that Tingman uses. I'll put the alg on a screen in a second. But the traditional E-perm is a rotation down like this. And the E-perm that Tingman uses, he regrips to the top here, and it looks more like that. So it's one move longer than the other algorithm, but in my head, a regrip where the cube stays stable versus a regrip where I have to also kind of do a subtle rotation. I would rather take this one. This feels more consistent, but your mileage may vary. The D moves are the same difficulty. You still have to do push-pull D moves, so I'm not avoiding a hard finger trick or anything like that. So here's the algorithms for the R perm and Tingman's E perm. Right, there you go. So what else? OLLs. I switched a ton of my OLLs. I made a community post about this. I'm not going to go over the details of all this, but my dot OLLs, I switched from the ones that are a lot of sledges and F-sexy F primes to these nice RU wide R algorithms. Tingman highly recommended these, and I agree that they're much better. The same thing with these dot OLLs that have the diag case. I used to do the ones that are F-sexy F prime, wide F-sexy F prime, but I think these are just a lot nicer to do. I've done both. I've tested both on StackMat at a pretty high speed, and I find these to be more consistent and just nicer. I have seen the other ones. Everyone in my comments was like, go watch Brian Sun's videos. I just like these better. This one, I find this is the nicest angle to do it from. I will still do this as F-sexy F prime, F-sexy F prime on big cubes, but I don't think on 3x3 that's the best way to do it. This one, 13, is so nice. It just looks like this. It is so much better than what I used to do for this case. It just flows really, really well. It's this case right here. It's beautiful. I really like that algorithm. It's substantially better than the trash I used to do that had a rotation in it. And then a couple other notes here. For this W case, I'm doing it lefty. I used to do it where I had to do a back sledge at the end of it, and it was really bad. I don't have Kyle Santucci's ability to do like a drag B move, which is crazy. This alg, as well as this one, I switched to versions that start with sledge and then have soon or anti-soon cancellations. I like them a lot better because they're regripless. This alg, I used to do wide F, which I still am not sure which I like better on 3x3. But on big cubes, this is so much better than the wide F move. And then I really like this algorithm better than either the lefty moves on 3x3 or on big cubes. It's just better for everything. So this is the new algorithm there. So that's my logic behind all this stuff. Less regrips, less spam F sexy F primes, less sledgehammers with regrips. I just think all these flow better, are more consistent, less regrips, all that. So the thing is, with all these algs, my recognition is still kind of shaky. I know all of them really solidly now, so I learned 12 new 3x3 algs this week. And I'm totally ready to go now on starting to learn how all those OLLs affect corners so that I can predict PLL better. But I think I need to wait on that a little bit. Like, I need to solidify these algorithms and just grind some more. I am so glad I didn't do ZBLL though, because I hadn't even solidified my OLLs yet. And I think ZBLL would have just been jumping the gun at the time. I will probably come back to ZBLL in a few months or a year or so, but not yet. Okay, hardware update. So I have tried a whole bunch of puzzles this week. I've got a whole video coming out on this soon, so I'm not going to yap about it now. But I think I'm landing on using fast cubes, not slow ones. So for this last week, I've been using fast GAN 16s. Early in the week, I set up a bunch of slow RS3 MV5s. That's what I was solving on for the 2 or 3 weeks before this week. And those were nice for look ahead, but they just don't allow the kind of finger tricks I want to have. And I don't think it will promote a good turning style. So I'll have a full video coming with thoughts, but for now I'm still on the GAN 16 Maglev Max with a really, really lightweight lube setup. So full video coming soon, but I think I'm ending up with fast 3x3s. 7x7 has kind of sucked, so I did almost 100 7x7 solves this week, and I didn't really improve, and I feel like the hardware gets in the way. I've still got to get the PyCube Warrior. I'm going to have the cubicle. I'm going to ask Phil to send me one in a week or two here. I can get into flow state mentally on 5x5 and 6x6. I don't do it on 7x7. I think the two factors for that are, number one, the cube is really slow, so my brain just moves so much faster than my fingers are able to move all the layers that it's hard to find flow state. Whereas on 5 and 6, the bottleneck is my brain, not the cube. And then it's just long. It's kind of a slog, and it's not as fun as I remember it being. And then I also haven't progressed in the last 2 weeks. I've been the same speed. My average of 100 is the exact same. So, obviously it will take me time to improve, but 7x7 isn't bringing me that much joy right now. So I'm going to switch up the big cubes this next week. So I'm going to lean into the grind this week. I've got a competition on Saturday, so I'm going to try to put down 1,000 solves before Saturday. Recording this on a Monday, so Tuesday through Friday, I'm going to do 1,000 solves a day. Oh my gosh, not 1,000 a day. 1,000 solves across the 4 days is my goal. I did a call with Patrick Ponce this evening, and he was basically like, dude, I think you just need to solve a lot. You've learned so much good stuff, but you just have to do it faster, which is the same conclusion I was coming to. Is I've learned new algs, I've got solid F2L solutions, I have the basics of planning cross plus one, now I just have to grind it all in. You can see it in the 10.03 average that I posted recently. My PR single was a really good, clean, full step 7. If I can just do that every solve, that's great. That needs no new information. I just need to turn better and look ahead better. So yeah, I'm going to grind a bunch of 3x3 solves for the next 4 days. I'm not committing to this for life. I'm just saying this week I'm going to try it. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And then big cubes, I'm going to do 4 through 6 as I want to. Kind of hate 7x7 right now. Just going to grind 3x3 this week and maybe get a good average on Saturday. Maybe not. We'll see. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I hope this was interesting. Subscribe if you forgot to. Support me on the Cubicle. Come see me at Tingman Live. And yeah, that's it. Hope you enjoyed it.